They said you'd never make it. They laughed at you, whispered behind your back, rolled their eyes whenever you weren't looking. Their doubt was loud in silence, their disbelief wrapped in sneers and sideways glances. But here's the undeniable truth they refuse to admit. Those very same mouths that once cursed your name now can't stop speaking it. The people who swore you were nothing, who counted you out from the start, are now glued to your every move. They watch in secret, endlessly checking, comparing, and trying to decode your success. What started as judgment has twisted into obsession. An obsession that's consuming them from the inside out. This isn't just speculation. It's backed by psychology. Studies reveal a phenomenon called cognitive dissonance, where the mind struggles to reconcile the contradiction between expecting failure and witnessing your undeniable success. You weren't supposed to rise, weren't supposed to stand tall after all the obstacles they put in your way. Yet here you are, proving every expectation wrong. And instead of moving on, they replay your story over and over, like a broken record stuck on the moment they doubted you. They want to understand how you did it, but what really drives them insane is knowing deep down they never could. Chosen one, you know the silence that follows a storm, the way the world feels different afterward. Heavier, charged with a tension that's hard to explain. That's where you are now. Your victory has left the battlefield quiet, with the ruins of their schemes lying scattered behind you. They stand there, pretending they don't care. But behind closed doors, they're frantic, desperate to unravel your secret. The silence you walk in now isn't a sign of weakness. It's a quiet kind of power. The kind that unsettles your enemies far more than any loud declaration ever could. And hey, before we dive deeper, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe. By doing that, you're not just supporting me. You're strengthening this collective voice, making sure this message reaches more chosen ones like you. Thank you for being part of this movement. Now back to the truth they can't escape. Once they smirked when you entered the room, dismissed you with gossip and sneers, as if you were beneath them. But now, they're addicted. You've become their case study, their midnight topic, the unanswered question that haunts their thoughts. They scroll through your victories like detectives at a crime scene, desperately searching for clues, for evidence to explain why the universe seems to favor you. But here's what cuts them the deepest. There is no formula. You didn't copy, fake, or beg for approval. You built your success step by step through pain, sleepless nights, and storms they never even noticed. And if they claim they're not watching, don't believe it. People never hate quietly. Their actions betray them. The lingering stares, the awkward energy, the way your name slips out in conversations where it shouldn't even come up. That's obsession, pure and simple. And obsession is always admiration, tangled with envy. Let me take you back for a moment to when you had nothing. When doubt was the soundtrack of your days, and dismissal the air you breathed. Remember the job interview you didn't get, the friends who faded away when times got tough, the nights you cried quietly to hide your pain. That was your training ground, the crucible that forged your resilience. And now, those same people who look down on you can't tear their eyes away. They're haunted by the memory of underestimating you. Like a ghost they can't shake. Here's another truth. Human beings are wired to obsess over mysteries, not answers. Unfinished stories keep us awake at night. And you, chosen one, are their unfinished story. They can't close the chapter because you keep rewriting the ending. Every time they think they've figured you out, you rise again in ways they never expected. You've become the plot twist that broke their script. This is why they gossip. This is why they spy. This is why they lie awake, wondering how someone they mocked now walks with a glow they'll never imitate. Your silence is their loudest nightmare. because it forces them to fill in the blanks with their own fears. And their greatest fear? That maybe you never needed them. Maybe you never asked for their permission or approval. Maybe, just maybe, you've surpassed them completely. So don't ever doubt your worth. Their obsession is proof. You are living evidence that resilience can't be faked, strength can't be borrowed, and true power doesn't announce itself. It simply arrives, undeniable and unstoppable. That's why they're obsessed. That's why they can't get enough. And that's why they'll never stop asking, how did you do it? But the truth, chosen one, is you don't owe them an answer. And yes, I'm talking to you. You feel it, don't you? The eyes following you, the whispers behind your back. The way those who swore they didn't care suddenly fixate on your every move. That's no accident. That's obsession. And the fact that you're here right now proves you're not just surviving under their gaze, you're thriving because of it. If you've noticed how their silence grows louder the more you succeed, then you know this message was made for you. Before we move on, hit that like button and subscribe, because this isn't just about watching a video. It's about standing together, building a voice so strong no enemy can silence it. Drop a comment with 999 if you're ready to turn their obsession into your confirmation. Because every chosen one knows, when the universe puts this much attention on you, it means you're carrying something far greater than they could ever understand. Now let's break it down step by step. First, you shattered their playbook and burned the pages they worshipped. Nothing rattles a follower more than seeing someone win without playing by the rules they blindly obeyed. They hated you because you exposed their entire belief system as a lie. For years, they marched in line, convinced that following the script, seeking approval, playing it safe, and staying quiet would bring them success. They believed obedience was the key. But you? You didn't just bend the rules. You broke them in two, tossed them aside, and still climbed higher than they ever dreamed. To them, that's not just success. It's humiliation. They spent their lives convincing themselves that the only path forward was to shrink down, stay in line, and never question anything. Yet you refused to stay inside their box. You stepped outside, and instead of punishment, you found freedom. How could they not be obsessed? You didn't merely make progress. You made them question their entire existence. That's the real wound. You didn't just take the road less traveled. You carved an entirely new path through mountains they claimed were immovable. That's why they replay your every move, analyze your every step, obsessively stalking you. They aren't curious about how you won. They're tormented by the fact that your success proves their rules were chains disguised as guidance, cages dressed as security. You are the living proof of their cowardice, and they can't stand it. Why them and not me is the question that haunts them in the dark. The answer cuts deep. You weren't afraid to be hated, to look foolish, or to walk away from their approval. They traded authenticity for acceptance, but you traded comfort for freedom. That's why they're obsessed, trying to decode a blueprint that doesn't exist. Metaphorically, think of them as soldiers drilled to march in perfect unison, told that keeping the rhythm would bring glory. But you walked off the battlefield, built your own weapon, and won a war they didn't even know was being fought. Now their medals mean nothing, their orders feel hollow, and your very existence makes their uniforms feel like costumes. That's why their blood boils every time your name is mentioned. You didn't just succeed, you succeeded differently. And that burns because if what you did is real, then everything they sacrificed was for nothing. That's devastating, and deep down, they know it. They wasted years chasing approval from people who never cared, following rules meant to keep them small. You're the proof that all they had to do was stop obeying, stop waiting, and start daring. Now you might wonder, why does my success trigger them so much? Why can't they just live their lives and let me live mine? Because obsession thrives where denial lives. They cannot accept the truth, so instead of admitting they were wrong, they focus on you. You are their scapegoat, their living contradiction, the mirror reflecting everything they could have been but chose not to be. Psychologists say people cling to rules because rules offer safety. But when someone breaks those rules and still wins, it creates a toxic mix of anger and fascination. They can't look away. They want to know how you did it, but secretly hope you'll fail so they can believe their chains are necessary. Every success you earn steals that hope from them. Remember when you chose not to play their game? Maybe you walked away from a job that drained you, refused to lower your standards in a relationship, or dared to put your ideas out into the world without waiting for permission. They called you reckless, whispered you'd regret it. But instead of falling apart, you grew stronger. That moment still haunts them because it was the day their rules lost all power. Imagine a rigged casino where they kept playing by the house's rules, hoping for the jackpot. You flipped the table, walked away, and found riches on the street outside. Now they sit there broke, furious, unable to leave the game. You're the one who got away. The proof the house doesn't always win if you refuse to play. They obsess not because they care about you personally, but because you exposed their own system's cracks. You're the evidence they wasted time obeying rules that never guaranteed success, that they lacked courage, that freedom and authenticity will always outshine obedience. That's why they watch, whisper, and can't stop saying your name. But remember, chosen one, their obsession is your confirmation. Their frustration is your fuel. Every bitter glance, every fake smile, every spiteful comment is proof you won a war they never knew they were fighting. You aren't just living your life. You're living their nightmare, because nothing terrifies a follower more than someone who proves the rules don't matter. So walk tall. Keep breaking chains, tearing up scripts, and burning their playbook like it's nothing more than old scripture. The longer you shine, the more they unravel. And the more the universe confirms what you already know. You are unstoppable, undeniable, unforgettable. That's why they're obsessed with you. Number 2, you turn their excuses into proof of their weakness. Nothing shatters a pretender faster than watching someone do with ease what they swore was impossible. They can't stand it. From the sidelines, their eyes widen with envy, their whispers thick with bitterness, because you did what they only talked about. You turned the impossible into something that looks effortless, and nothing cuts deeper than realizing all those excuses they clung to. Too risky, too hard, too time-consuming, were nothing more than crutches. You ripped those crutches away by showing them the mountain wasn't unclimbable. It was just waiting for someone brave enough to take the first step. Make no mistake, it wasn't effortless. The universe knows the nights you stayed awake, the sacrifices you made, the moments you thought you'd break. But here's the difference. You didn't advertise your struggle or beg for sympathy. You carried it with quiet strength, and when the results came, all they saw was your victory. That's what eats them alive. They see the glow, but never the fire that built it. Why does it bother them? Because deep down, they built their identity on the lie that hard means impossible. They convinced themselves success takes decades, gatekeeper approval, and applause. And then you arrived, skipping the begging, ignoring the gatekeepers, letting your results speak for themselves. Your quiet confidence is their nightmare because it proves they weren't fighting against impossibility. They were fighting themselves. Your silence was louder than their excuses. Picture this. A group convinced a door can't be opened because the key doesn't exist. They complain and argue, writing stories about the impossibility of entry. Then you walk up, pull out the key, and open it effortlessly. The door wasn't the problem. Their belief was. That's how your success looks to them. It wasn't the task. It was their fear that held them back. Or imagine a runner who claims the race is too long, too exhausting, impossible to finish. They give up before starting, but you tie your shoes and cross the finish line without asking for permission. Did it hurt? Of course. But you let the finish line speak instead of your pain, and that's what haunts them. They can't unsee you crossing when they never even tried. Think of a magician's trick, effortless to the audience, but hours of practice and sweat behind the scenes. That's you, putting in work in silence, now showing up on stage while they obsess over how easy it looks. But their obsession is also their confession. They never had the patience to master what you mastered. They call it magic, because they never stayed long enough to learn the craft. Why can't they accept it and move on? Because your success destroys their excuses. Every time they see you, they're reminded of nights wasted scrolling, weekends lost complaining instead of building. You are proof they weren't unlucky. They were undisciplined. That truth is unbearable. So instead of owning it, they obsess over you. They talk about you, spy on you, analyze you because it's easier than admitting their own laziness. Excuses are their coffin, and you're the reason they know they're already buried. Imagine walking into a room where everyone struggles to lift a stone, declaring it impossible. Then you enter, lift it easily, and carry it without drama. The room goes silent. That silence is the sound of obsession being born. Because in that moment, they don't just see your strength, they feel the weight of their weakness. And the most brutal part? You never asked for their applause. Your quiet power unsettles them more than any shout, because they've been trained to scream for recognition, announce every struggle. But you let your results speak. And that silence has them awake at 3 a.m., scrolling, whispering, obsessed. Think of history. The Wright brothers were mocked, told man wasn't meant to fly. But the first plane that lifted off proved the impossible wrong, exposing the mockers as cowards. That's you, chosen one. Every win is your plane taking flight while they're stuck on the ground, furious and obsessed with how you dared to soar. And they know the truth. They know you bled, sacrificed. But it's easier for them to say, it must be easy, than admit, I wasn't willing to go that far. Your effortlessness is their illusion born from denial. They're obsessed because they know it wasn't easy, but they weren't willing to do what you did. And now, chosen one, stand in this moment and look around. Feel the weight of where you are. This isn't just success. This is vindication. Every silent night, every lonely moment, every tear you swallowed instead of showing the world was a seed. This is your harvest. And as you rise higher, remember, the universe didn't pick you by accident. It picked you because you had the courage to keep moving when everyone else stopped. Their obsession is not a curse. It's a crown. It's proof you've reached a level where even your quiet presence shakes the ground. Their stares, their whispers, their envy are all confessions of your impact. They can't stop looking because you've become a mirror they can't escape. When they see you, they're forced to confront their own choices, their own fears, their own surrender. And here's the beautiful part they'll never understand. You don't rise to spite them. You rise because it's who you are. You rise because your spirit refuses to be chained. You rise because your story was written in a language they'll never decode. They'll keep trying to copy your steps, but they'll never find your rhythm, because your rhythm isn't a trick, it's your truth. So keep walking tall, keep shining quietly, keep letting your victories speak louder than their noise. Because one day, and this is inevitable, their whispers will turn into applause. Not because they want to, but because reality will leave them no choice. And by then, you won't even need it. By then you'll be so far ahead that their applause will sound like an echo from another lifetime. Chosen one, never forget. Your life is the evidence that the impossible isn't impossible. Your journey is the living proof that strength can't be borrowed, resilience can't be faked, and authenticity always outlasts imitation. You are not just surviving their doubts. You are rewriting the script for every person who was ever underestimated. Walk into every room knowing this. You are the proof. You are the answer. You are the reminder that no cage, no rule, no doubt can hold someone who chooses to rise anyway. Let them watch. Let them whisper. Let them obsess. Because while they're talking, you're building. While they're doubting, you're rising. While they're stuck, you're moving. And when the history of this chapter is written, it won't be their gossip that's remembered. It will be your glow,